The Zelvara High Council convened, their elongated heads bobbing in frustration. Supreme Strategist XYLO tapped a claw against the control panel, bringing up battle footage. Their soldiers, genetically enhanced to be the most efficient warriors in the galaxy, were getting their asses handed to them. One collapsed from a sprained wrist. Another suffered a nervous breakdown mid-battle. A third was felled by, XYLO zoomed in, a strong gust of wind. This, XYLO growled, is unacceptable. Counselor Zephlon nodded solemnly. Our bodies are too fragile. Centuries of genetic refinement have weakened us. We need brutes, another added. Durable warriors. Ones that don't panic when someone sneezes. The room went silent. Then a screen lit up, displaying a primitive, resilient species that had spread like a virus across the cosmos. Humans. The aliens stared at the footage, creatures thriving in hostile environments, surviving explosions, enduring injuries with little more than a grunt and a bottle of alcohol. One clip showed a human soldier laughing while pulling a bullet out of his own arm with pliers. XYLO steepled his fingers. We need their durability. Their tenacity. Their bizarre willingness to headbutt problems instead of solving them. Zephlon squinted at the data. Genetic splicing hasn't worked. Mechanical implants fail. What if we breed the strength into our kind? The room was silent again. Then someone whispered, Naturally? The idea was insane. Brilliant. Within weeks, a classified initiative was launched. Hand-picked Zelvara females, physically elite, genetically superior, and trained in every form of combat, were selected for the program. Human males, chosen from the most genetically potent and stubborn specimens, were brought in under the pretense of a diplomatic exchange. The first pairing session was held in a sterile, white-walled laboratory. The Zelvara scientists, utterly devoid of any concept of romance, approached the process like a biological transaction. A tall, sharp-featured Zelvara female sat rigidly across from Sergeant Jake Carter, an Earth-born Marine with a grin that could charm the paint off a battleship. Scientist Orven tapped at his holopad. You have been assigned a genetically compatible mate. You will now commence the breeding process. Jake blinked. Oh, baby, you sure know how to set the mood. The Zelvara female, Aravena, narrowed her glowing eyes. You are not what I expected. Let me guess. Jake smirked, leaning back. You thought I'd just get right to it. No conversation, no warm-up? The purpose is reproduction, not inefficiency. Jake chuckled. Sweetheart, trust me. If humans have one thing going for them, it's doing things right. She scoffed. I doubt it. An hour later, she had very different thoughts. For the first time in her entire species' history, a Zelvara female found herself genuinely confused. The act was not just a means to an end. It had layers. Worse, the human male didn't shut up. The entire time, Jake had talked. Complimented. Teased. Laughed. He had kissed her forehead, whispered things she didn't fully understand, made her feel things she never expected. The scientists observed the monitors, puzzled. One muttered, Subject Aravena appears to be experiencing emotional distress? Another frowned. Her vitals are elevated. Is this a malfunction? Orven furrowed his brow. No. This is something far more dangerous. The breeding experiment had succeeded. But the side effects were beyond their control. The data from the experiment was supposed to be straightforward. Genetic fusion, heightened durability, increased combat efficiency. What the scientists hadn't accounted for was contamination. Aravena wasn't the only one affected. Across the program, other Zelvara females were showing symptoms. One warrior, Vialira, had been the coldest, most ruthless fighter in her unit. Now, she was writing poetry. Not just any poetry. Bad poetry. Her battle logs, once filled with strategic observations, were now overwritten with things like, Your eyes burn like plasma storms in the vacuum of my soul. Or worse, Your touch disrupts my neural synapses like a high-frequency EMP. She read it aloud to her human partner, Corporal Davis. He sat there, blinking. Wow. That's something. Another warrior, Samara, had gone in the opposite direction. She refused to leave Earth. Flat out refused. They have food, she argued. Better food. She had discovered barbecue. Do you understand? She demanded during a debrief. This species slow cooks their meat over hours to achieve perfect tenderness. Commander Xylo pinched the bridge of his nose. What does this have to do with genetic enhancement? Samara crossed her arms. I refuse to fight on an empty stomach. If you want me to return to battle, I require ribs. The final straw came with Jirin, one of the program's most disciplined warriors. She was watching soap operas. She had been paired with an engineer from Earth, and at first she had mocked the human custom of televised melodrama. But then she got invested. One morning, a routine training session was delayed because Jirin refused to leave until she found out whether Lucas would forgive Serena for betraying him with his evil twin. This is illogical, her commander scolded. Her eyes glowed dangerously. You don't understand. By now, the effects of human exposure were undeniable. The Zelvara High Council convened an emergency meeting. We were supposed to enhance our species with human resilience, one leader snapped. Instead, we have warriors emotionally compromised by romantic subplots and slow-cooked meat. Orven looked at the reports grimly. Human males are not just genetic donors. Their cultural influence is bleeding into our soldiers. Xylo scowled. This is unacceptable. Zeflon hesitated. Or is it? The room fell silent. He tapped the data screen. Emotion increases motivation. Passion fuels drive. Human unpredictability makes them dangerous on the battlefield. What if? The words felt almost blasphemous. We embraced it? It was too late to reverse the process. The human influence was spreading. The hybrids were being born. And they were nothing like the Zelvara expected. The first batch of hybrids entered combat, and from the very beginning, it was clear something was wrong. They were strong. That part had worked. Their endurance exceeded expectations. They could fight through injuries that would have crippled normal Zelvara. But they didn't fight right. A Zelvara commander issued an order. A hybrid questioned it. Why? The room went silent. Orders weren't questioned. Ever. The hybrid, designation Cade-17, folded his arms. Tactically, your plan is flawed. We should flank the enemy, not engage head-on. The commander bristled. You were created to follow orders. Cade-17 shrugged. Then you shouldn't have given me a human brain. They ignored protocols. Some refused to wake up early for drills unless they had coffee. Others developed personalized weapons preferences instead of standard issue. One hybrid, Jax-12, refused to wear traditional armor. Instead, he modified it. A custom fit, added pockets, and a trench coat. When confronted, he smirked. Gotta have style. In battle, they were devastating, but unpredictable. One charged into an enemy squad while blasting music from an external speaker. Another started taunting opponents mid-fight. Is that all you got? My grandma hits harder. One hybrid warrior stopped a firefight to flirt with an enemy sniper. Flirt. She disarmed the opponent, and then asked for his calm frequency. Zelvara Command was losing its mind. The final straw came during a planetary assault. The hybrids were deployed to secure a key outpost. Instead of executing a swift, efficient strike, they dragged it out. Why? They were having fun. One hybrid challenged an enemy warlord to a fistfight, just to prove he could win. Another took a selfie mid-battle. An entire squad paused the fight to argue about Earth's sports teams. By the time reinforcements arrived, the battlefield was already secured. The hybrids had won. But not because of strategy. Not because of superior numbers. Because their sheer chaotic energy had broken the enemy's morale. The opposing commander surrendered out of sheer confusion. His exact words: I can't deal with this. They won't shut up. They keep laughing. They are mocking the concept of war itself. Zelvara leadership was speechless. The hybrids had rewritten the entire concept of warfare. But instead of creating obedient, efficient soldiers, they had unleashed an army of absolute lunatics. The aftermath was worse than the war itself. The Zelvara expected their hybrids to return home, integrate into the military, and serve as the next generation of elite warriors. Instead, they demanded benefits. Paid time off. Cade 17 insisted. We just won a war. We deserve a vacation. Retirement plans? Jax 12 added. Do we get pensions, or are we just expected to fight forever? And dental? Someone called from the back. We inherited human teeth. Do you know what a cavity is? Because I sure didn't until last week. Zelvara Command was horrified. Their ultimate warriors had unionized. Some refused to return at all. The human influence ran too deep. One hybrid started a barbecue business on a colony world. Another entered the entertainment industry, starring in action holofilms because his real combat experience made for excellent choreography. One became a self-help guru, touring the galaxy to give speeches about embracing the chaos within. Zelvara leadership scrambled for damage control. An emergency broadcast was sent to recall all hybrids. The response? A formal petition demanding reasonable working conditions. The Zelvara Supreme Commander slammed his fists against the table. They were supposed to be weapons, not influencers. The chaos spread. Zelvara soldiers, once disciplined and emotionless, started adopting human habits. Training drills were delayed because soldiers were hungover. An entire squadron skipped a mission to watch the finale of a human reality show. One challenged his superior officer to a drinking contest. And won. The Zelvara Empire had created the perfect soldiers. Instead, they had accidentally restructured their entire civilization. The final humiliation came when the enemy forces, once their greatest threat, sent an official surrender. Not because of military defeat. Because they had been exposed to humans and their hybrids. They are impossible to fight, the enemy leader admitted. They insult us, they banter mid-battle, they make us feel bad about ourselves. One of them told my second-in-command he had main character energy before punching him in the face. We can't handle this. We surrender. The war was over. Not because the Zelvara had overpowered their enemies, but because human absurdity had broken them. The Supreme Council, once the most feared governing body in the galaxy, sat in stunned silence. The hybrids had not only survived, they had won. And worst of all, they had fun doing it.